No, because if a team goes down or a team's got a one-man advantage, they kind of, they say, right, we've got an advantage here. Let's play this sensibly. Let's kind of work them across the field and that kind of thing. But sensible isn't really in Watts' DNA, is it? But there you go.
Well, yeah, I did a blog post last year that as things were at that time. So if you're on superleaguepod.com and then dig around in the archives there, people might be able to find this about comparing what happens when people are down. So I looked what the aggregate scores were for teams when they were down a man through the sin bin or down a man through a sending off over. I think I did it over the 3 or 4 year period that the Super League pod's been running. Maybe a 2 year period actually. That sounds like a lot of work. 4 years. But yeah, and it kind of came up that it's not as much of an advantage as you might expect, and both sides fell into the same old traps, didn't they, in this one? Individually, Colin Melvin uploaded it from this one. He got a try, 8 tackle bust on 102 metres. Dean Hadley, you mentioned him, 47 tackles. Sika Manu on his return from Tonga with a try assist in 100 metres. And Scott Taylor did double work to make up for the fact that his front row partner lost his head a bit. It was 41 tackles, 10 marker tackles in that, and 101 metres. For the losing Warrington side, Tom Lynham really put in a shift, 140 successful offloads, ultimately didn't lead to very much, sadly, against his former team. Chris Hill, 126 metres. Darryl Clark, 53 tackles, 120 metres, 2 clean breaks. So he was explosive and hard-working, and an absolute dynamo team again this year. And then finally for Wire, Ben Murdoch-Masilla with 1 try assist, 10 marker tackles, so worked relatively hard in defence for him, certainly there, and 170. But I went something with Ben Murdoch-Masilla that made it a bit controversial.
Okay. Well,
but the more and more I see him,
yeah,
and I picked up on this in the Wigan game when he was attacking towards me in the first half, and I picked it up then watching this game at the weekend. He feels like a little bit of a flat track bully. He doesn't run very often at opposing forwards. He almost always gets himself on the blind side, even if it means a 3-man blind side. He's always running at the halfback or the centre. Now, you could say that's a smart move because it will help him have a bigger impact, break more tackles, get his arm free. He's got a decent offload on him if Ryan Atkins can pick them up. And also, which we hope he can't, obviously, it's more fun to watch him fail and celebrate anyway. No, but in all seriousness, that's what I'm starting to see out of Ben Murdoch-Masilla. And for a guy who you spent that much money on, you'd want him to be dominating in the land out wide. I would have thought, but to his credit, a little bit of defensive work this week, which he didn't do a lot of for Salford last year. He tried to shirk that if he could. So, but any views on that? Am I being a bit harsh?
Well, I guess it depends on whether he's been coached to attack the kind of halfback, doesn't it? I mean, it makes. I don't know. Is it better to kind of put kind of big body against big body and kind of try to cancel out some of the better kind of wide running kind of Hull FC guys, or are you better off trying to get him up against Snade or whoever to get him through those gaps? Because you're right in saying that he's kind of of that mould where he's gonna try to slip the pass, isn't he? He's going to try to set other players up. So I guess it depends how he's being taught, but I mean it's one of those things that it's something to keep an eye on. I think it's definitely something to keep an eye on because you're right in that it's easy to kind of go up against a kind of a 12-stone halfback, isn't it? Than
something else
your
to keep
18-stone forward.
Is Matic's 91st minute goal for United to make it 3-2. That's just happened. That was exciting.
Thanks for that.
Not that I wasn't listening to you. Let's move on to Friday night summer fix.
Can I just make a quick point before you do?
Sure.
About Chris Hill, because it's one thing I pointed out. Obviously, he leads by example in many ways in terms of what he does. But I was really disappointed with his reaction after the sending off of Patton. I thought he lost it. I thought he lost his kind of cool. And he's the captain.
Kind of arguing with the referee about something that didn't even exist yet. Sort of basically trying to get the referee to level things up before there was anything to level it up over. And telling the referee that he's going to make it spill over now if he's not careful and all that sort of stuff. When really he should have been telling his own players, let's not make it spill over, lads.
Yeah, Exactly. You know, to
Yeah.
me that's poor captaincy.
It's
That's not what you're looking for.
it's one of the few questions I've ever raised about Chris Hill in his spell in Super League because he's been absolutely world class, hasn't he? So moving on to the
Yeah.
game where I freeze my toes off uh, on it's one of 10,815 in attendance though, and Robert Hicks was the referee for this one when it was Wigan 32, Widnes 16 after it being 16-4 to the Vikings at half time. So it was the biggest half time turnaround in a Super League game so far this season. Previously, teams had only come from 2 points behind at the half, I think. But certainly no one had come back from 18 points. 12
12.
points behind. We were 16 points
Well,
behind.
16 behind, yeah.
I'm totally all over the show trying to watch the last minute of the football. But yeah, so did we get any fan views on this one? We've got one here from a new name to the show, so that's good.
Yeah, so this is at Cal Nuttall, so CalNuttall1. So Wigan were terrible in the first half and had no direction in attack. Sam Powell isn't a halfback anymore, and we look a better team when Sam Tompkins goes into the halves. We hit the wrong man too many times when in good field position. That first half mirrored the whole 2017 season, being clueless in attack. The second half we obviously improved and started to attack the line better and took our chances, but room for improvement. And then Paul O'Brien, a Widnes fan, long-suffering Widnes fan, 16-0 up and then concede 32 unanswered points. Need to be a bit smarter with the ball and game management needs to be better. So obviously you were there, I wasn't. I've only really seen the tries. The first question I would have for you actually is, how crucial was getting that score before half-time?
Yeah, it was pretty huge because like Cal's covered everything. There's only one slight objection I'd pick up on in Cal's thing about the halfback situation in this particular game, but Cal picks up on everything else spot on how I would have described this game. And the first half, Wigan's attack kind of lost itself too many times. Last tackle options weren't coming off. George Williams was making the wrong decision way more often than the right decision. Morgan Escaré, when he was on the pitch, he picked up an ankle injury. He didn't look like he was confident attacking, so he was shipping the ball on almost as soon as he got it into his hands, so not committing any defenders or anything like that. And that was all symptomatic of things we saw a lot of times from Wigan last year. No one was getting in anyone's ear saying just do this a little bit differently and we'll pull that off and that sort of stuff. But then for Burgess to score a really well-worked try in the end, Wigan had just finally started to keep some pressure on and not wasted it. They got a bit of patience, which was key. And Burgess scored a quality try in the corner from a really good Sean O'Loughlin wide pass to George Williams, then a cut-out pass, which was decent play. It was really important because it meant we could go into the half-time and the team talk would change slightly from you really aren't working anything here to see when you are patient, when you do deliver your plays properly, we'll score on this team. Because Wigan had started to take a bit of a stranglehold of the territory and possession, very much unlike the Warrington game where we had no stranglehold at all.
No.
In this game, as the first half wore on, Wigan did get that. Widnes, though, I think it needs to be said, Widnes were very good in the first half for the most part. What maybe held them back a little bit was they took 2 penalties in the sort of middle of them dominating. Wigan had a great opening couple of sets to the game, but they gave away a penalty. And after that, Wigan didn't really touch the ball with any meaningful way at all for about 20 minutes. And Widnes were really good in that 20 minutes, but kicked a couple of penalty goals. So even though they were winning the floor more often than not, they were finding spaces out wide and a couple of times through the middle, and Wigan were looking a bit ragged, they were then taking penalties and not forcing the issue close to the goal line. Now, I don't know if they didn't have confidence in the goal line attack or they thought the weather's really cold, probably going to be a low-scoring game, let's take the points when they can come along. But that was the wrong decision.
Yeah.
It's an interesting in the point. Second half, it was almost like the total flip opposite. Widnes had 2 great opening sets, a really good first set with the ball, making 70 metres, a good defensive set, and then Wigan just took total control and Widnes started to concede a lot of penalties. Wigan's forwards decided to actually really toughen it up. Now, maybe Wigan's bench was better than Widnes's bench. McGrath Luluai was really like poor off the bench for Widnes. He didn't really impose himself at all, and Ted Chapelhow didn't really do much either. Whereas Ryan Sutton and Tali Matautai really straightened things up, simplified things for Wigan for them to then get back into the game. The thing I'd take issue with Cal, not issue with, because I think it's a view that a lot of people have, and it's a view that I've had in other games so far this season, but not so much this one. The Sam Powell, Sam Hart, Sam Tompkins, all of that, the switch. This was the first game where Wigan were better when Tompkins was at fullback. And I think that was kind of demonstrated with not only Sam Tompkins' try, where we saw a little bit of the evasive running of Sam Tompkins of old. He wasn't lightning quick, but he was certainly quick enough to beat any of the men that were close enough to him. So that was really good to see. And there was a couple of side steps at the start of that, and Jinkton got through. But the touch on in the build-up to Tom Davies' try was absolute pure class. And that was a full-back touch because he was on that end of the passing line. There was also a very, very close well, it felt close at the time. From the stand I was sat in, it looked like a flat pass. From the camera angle from the other side, when I watched the highlights back, it looks like a forward pass. But an inside ball from Sam Tompkins, again popping up on the shoulder of his halfback, to his brother Joel Tompkins, went through a big hole and scored. But sadly, it was ruled back for forward, and it did look a little bit forward from the TV camera angle side. So I actually thought in this one, Sam Powell at 7 was really good. Sam Tompkins at fullback was really good. Sam Tompkins still did the majority of the distance kicking, which probably helped. The other people to big up are going to be people in the stats roundup, so I don't want to probably go on too much.
It's an interesting point you make about taking the two, kind of, because in the next game, the Wakefield game, the attitude was to take two, and that worked out for them. And it wouldn't surprise me if there was an attitude that it would be bad weather, cold. It's going to be a low scorer. Let's keep incrementally. Let's get ahead. Let's keep the scoreboard moving, and it makes total sense.
Especially because Wigan's attack looked poor last week for most part, and was really not clicking in any way, shape or form in the first half. So maybe Widnes were thinking of that too, like they're not going to score enough here because they're not playing well enough, but they were wrong, happily.
It's one of those things, isn't it, that if you refuse, like, if let's say for example that Wigan had won by 2 and Widnes had refused 2 kicks at goal, that'd be all anyone would talk about. Oh, you turned down 4 points.
Yeah, true.
You lost those 4 points.
Like when Wigan lost to Widnes by 2 points a couple of years ago, actually, in the 10-8 shitfest. Okay.
You're kind of damned if you do and damned if you don't with that kind of thing, really.
Totally true. And in terms of the stats, in the team stats, errors was one key stat that Wigan let themselves down. It was the only one key stat that Wigan let themselves down in, really, with 2 more than Widnes in a 12-10 overall count. Crucially for Wigan, they had 3 fewer penalties conceded, 5.5% better team tackle success rate, keeping their position as the top tackling side in the Super League so far, and 402 more metres than the visitors. It was, though, only 6 breaks to 5, despite ending up as 6 tries to 2. So Wigan took their chances much better as well than Widnes did there, based on that, even though it felt, when I was watching the game, the other way around, weirdly. So there you go. Individually, Liam Farrell had a really, really good game, apart from one defensive miss that was in the build-up to the second try for Widnes. But he had 1 try in 156 metres, and I thought he was pretty strong throughout. Joe Burgess was very good, came back into this game because of the slight injury niggle with Liam Marshall. But I think Joe Burgess is going to keep his place, to be completely honest. 1 try, 7 tackles, 106 metres. He had a crucial pick up on a Tom Gilmore kick to touch for a penalty that didn't make touch, and Joe Burgess made an incredible sprint and pick up that really did change it from Wigan being on the up to Wigan being in control. Tom Davies was immense, hard working. Don't get him in your dream teams. Let me keep in mind. 1 try for him in the end. 7 tackle busts, 220 metres, 3 clean breaks. He also had a try chalked out for a obstruction in the build-up. And Sam Thompson, 70 of those coming on that elusive run for his try. He was pretty decent in this game, I would say. So between those 4, they would be all my. Ryan Sutton actually got it at the game. That shows that shows how many Wigan players did turn it on, certainly in the second half of the game. For the losing Widnes side, there was a couple of hard workers in defence. Sam Wilde made 44 tackles. Hep Cahill made 41 tackles. It's kind of what we've grown to expect from Hep. Tom Alberson had 105